Woo!
Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here, and welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show live. As always, brought to you by all these wonderful sponsors cruising across the bottom there. Ballast Point Brewing Company, Seaguard, Jackson Kayak, Warner Paddles, all of them. And of course, every Tuesday, our episodes are brought to you by our good friend, Patrick Sebile from abandofanglers.com. Every Tuesday, he comes in here and goes over one of his brands of lures, kind of gives you a rundown of some of the different products, maybe answer any of your questions really quick. So, first 10, 15 minutes of this show is dedicated to our good friend, Patrick Sebile. We do these shows every Tuesday and Thursday. Normally, I missed last Thursday because I have construction going on in my house, and they were turning on and off my power, so I couldn't really do that. So, got a new router in the house or a new modem. And so hopefully my internet on this end is a lot better because it was really lagging. So hopefully we don't have any hiccups, but please do let us know if you're seeing any issues on the show. With no further ado, this is weird. My friend Patrick, he is in sunny, warm, toasty Florida. But look at him. I mean, looks like you're living in the Great North.
Well, that's actually a bit chilly right here. We have that north wind. Many people in the north are getting loaded with snow at the moment as of we speak, and it's only 54 degrees. So I still wear shorts and Crocs, but for the top, yeah, man, I need to cover up a bit.
And that's snow on your chin as well.
Yeah, you can tell my 20-year-old beard.
Yeah. So again, for people who are new to this, on our Tuesday shows, Patrick kindly offers up a discount code, which you can see right there, for 20% off of the product that we're talking about for 24 hours, and then 15% off for the remainder of the week. And today that product is ocean-borne. So take a look at these discount codes. And at the end of the 6 weeks, which I think we're only a couple of weeks away, Patrick will be hand picking out $150 worth of lures for one person who has participated, gave us the comments, the shares, all that stuff. Shares. We really appreciate that. And of course, you can watch these shows at the Kayak Fishing Show page, the Kayak Fishing Group page, as well as Kayak Fishing Tales, which is our YouTube channel. If you go to Kayak Fishing Tales, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified of any new episodes. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Patrick, and let's talk about Ocean-borne.
Yeah, Ocean-borne. Well, actually, Ocean-borne was the first new brand I broke 3 years ago. And there's a little bit of a story. I'm a big fan of the Northeast. That's a place I've been fishing for the past 20 years. Used to go once or twice a year, targeting striped bass and, of course, bluefish and a few other fish, black sea bass and stuff like that. And I was looking to find a name that definitely means, well, that brand is very much about saltwater fishing. And there's a there's a story about Ocean-borne Mary, which was a baby that was born on a boat somewhere between Ireland and Massachusetts, and that baby was born exactly when pirates attacked the boats. So if you're a bit curious, look for Ocean-borne Mary, so you will know that's why the name Ocean-borne, and that's a little bit a dedication to my friends in the Northeast. So Ocean-borne brand is really much about saltwater and, generally speaking, big fish. That means the baits are typically thicker than other baits, because I know in saltwater we have more chances to have a fish like a cubera snapper, like a bluefish, that have sharp teeth that can pierce through the plastic. So compared to most of the bait on the market, the thickness of the plastic body is typically about 30% thicker. So it resists much better. It's not totally teeth proof, but really resists much better. It also makes the bait stronger in case they hit the rocks, or even when you bring your big fish in the kayak, and sometimes a big fish like a cobia, a yellowtail, can shake the head very powerfully and hit the lure, against inside the boat or the kayak, and some lure can be damaged. Well, a thicker body definitely holds better. Also, most of them, if not all of them, are reinforced with wire through, like 350-pound wire through. So let's go a bit in detail of some models now. So this first guy I want to show today is named the Flying Darter. So this is one in a bag, and here's one outside of the bag. You can see a bit better that lure. So this kind of bait are typical shapes for striped bass. They are made especially to reel them down and slow. You can fish with those in ripping currents and stuff like that. It's a large profile. It's 180 millimeter. But what I want to share with you, it's not just your average one. So typically, the original baits have only a floating model, and I do have a floating, and I do have a SLD, which is a super long distance. That means one that is tuned to optimize the casting distance. But I also have the extra heavy, and that's that guy, the one I have in my hand right now. So the color has nothing to do with that. In that case, it's I believe a beautiful squid color. The extra heavy is really super heavy. You can jig it actually, and you can troll it if you want to leave this guy behind your kayak. But you really can go, let it go down and jig it. And thanks to the side wings, which help for the action, not only when you retrieve, you give a bit of lift in the water, but when you let it dive, if you want to jig this guy, now you really have an action that mimics a squid or other bait fish, such as a green mackerel here. So I really love that extra heavy if I want to go down deep. Now, if I just want to cast and retrieve, especially if it's shallow water, the floating is great. A couple of years ago, I was next to Catalina Island. I caught some calicos with these guys. So a very interesting lure that have more options because we have a floating SLD and the extra heavy. You can tell the extra heavy is really loaded with weight. So that's why it's great jigging lure. Have a great glide and a swim action on the retrieve. Great profile. If you want to target white sea bass, calicos, striped bass, yellowtails, tuna, I mean, there's really a wide range of big fish that are interested with such big bait and big profile. Now, the next one is this guy. I mean, for those of you who like to use a minnow that have a bill, well, that one is really especially interesting. The name of this guy is the whiteback minnow. So you can tell it's not your typical, thin, super slender minnow. No, it's a very meaty one. And that's why the whiteback minnow. And thanks to that, I have a lot of buoyancy. But there's one thing. So you have a lure that have definitely a volume that catch the fish attention when that bait swim, whether you troll it or you cast and retrieve. But pay attention to the bill. I'm going to try to show you the best I can. Look, the bill. It's not simply your typical bill. That's a bill I have a patent of. As you can see, there's two anchorage right here and right there. So in fact, thanks to that, I have a stainless steel bead that is concealed into the lure mouth, and that's pretty strong because when you have a typical ABS or plastic, if you like, bill, well, I guess many of you have noticed, if you have a bill that's thin, you have a great action for your minnow, but the bill is thin, so it can break relatively easily. On the other hand, if you have a thick bill, the thick bill typically don't break, but it really hurts the action. I'm speaking at least on medium and short, small size bill. If you go with a big, deep diving, massive bill, well, a thicker one still can work because the bill is massive. But here, I have the best of both worlds because I have a pretty strong bill thanks to that stainless steel bill that also creates a lot of flash. And as you know, it catches the attention of fish, the flash in the water. But the fact there's that double anchorage, which is patented, really allows you to have a very thin bill. You can see here, the water flows very easily when the lure swims. So thanks to that, this lure can really do things that, I mean, honestly, no other minnow can do. You can reel it or troll it as slow as you want. And literally, the slowest you can reel or crank your reel, that guy have a swim action, especially the floating one. But
I will add that thing has very good action at kayak trolling speed. I trolled that in the Bahamas and caught quite a few fish on that. And it just, even at a nice, easy pace, it had very, very good action. So just wanted to throw that in because I have had a chance to use this lure.
And that's good that you have the experience, because you can share that. And that's directly the result of the bill. Because you have a big volume, which typically goes against a good swim action. But the bill, with the shape I gave it, the angle I gave it, but really a lot, the fact there's that double anchorage, there's not that drag sideways. And I may surprise you. You may not think or not know about that and think, what? The bill itself can hurt the swim action? Yes. I've been designing lure for 30 years, and bill minnow are a type of lure I design a lot, whether for my brands or for other companies that I work with over the years. The thickness of the bill have a big impact on the swim action. And this patent really is the big thing, the white back minnow. And, we have the floating model. So it's written on the back. You see here, FL, so obviously floating. And you see also on the packaging, blue and floating. We also have super long distance. So the key difference between a floating and super long distance, you can see by yourself on the weight. If you take the floating, it's 2.5 ounces or 70 grams right here. But if you take the super long distance, now we talk about 3.25 or 95. So really, when the distance is the key, say you have fast moving tuna, for example, and you need to make the longest cast possible to reach them, well, having almost 1 ounce heavier lure, if you have the right rod, of course, really help for longer casting distance. Now, if you really want to troll and focus on trolling, I strongly recommend the floating one. And what's incredible, well, we're on a kayak show, so you typically won't go very fast, but, well, you can reel that guy or troll that guy as slow as you want. You can go all the way to 23 knots. I know it seems insane. That is true. And that have a lot to do with the bill. So you can use it really at any speed you really can think of. Very, very strong, very efficient. And you see we have that full wire that goes from the nose to the tail, and we have the belly hook is rigged on a swivel. And that is true also here on the flying darter. You also have that swivel right here. And then
just real quick, we do have a question asked from Serge, asking if that would be a good one for muskie.
Absolutely, definitely, because that, as I mentioned, the action work at any speed, literally any speed. So if sometimes muskie, like some other predators, sometimes you need to have a very slow retrieve. That's the case here, for example, for snook or tarpon, where some days you need to go as slow as you can. But on the other hand, sometimes you need to burn a lure, and that guy will not jump. So some minnows are really good at slow speed. Some of them are really good at fast. Well, this guy, I sincerely say, it's good at any speed. So when you target muskie, whether you troll it behind you or you want to cast and retrieve, you want to jerk it, you want to burn it, you want to slow roll it, any speed, that will work. And again, it's thanks to its very unique bill. So yes, works for muskies. Definitely, yes. Yes. So the last lure is not one lure, it's two lure with a little difference in the shape, which have some impact, are my bucktails. So I have two different bucktails. I have the swimming bucktail, which is that green one, and the bouncing bucktail. So what do they have in common? If we look more closely at this guy, well, they have side wings. And it's no joke. Those bucktails are not just a piece of lead, like a jig head and some hairs. No, they are really a lure by themselves. And the way I designed them, the wings are a key thing into that. The wing, in that case, help to have a spiral down. So when you jig the bouncing model, say in 30 or 40 feet of water, when you jig it, it can go as far as 8 feet sideways. Of course, you need to give some slack. If you have the line too tight, well, it will go relatively down straight. But if you jerk it and let it go, the wings on the side and the little bit of an angle in front of the wing is what catch some water and give that spiral down. It's very, very efficient. Now, when you land those guys on the bottom, say you want to fish black halibut, for example, right? Well, every time you land, thanks to the wings, it cannot roll over. So you will always stay and keep that position. Now, of course, You can use this guy alone, for example, on tuna when they target very small prey and say you fish, and you have that school of tuna chasing around you or beside you. You just can use the bucktail alone. It works great. But also, both of those bucktail work very good if you want to add, some trailer like the curly mean here, dart spin, meanwhiles. And meanwhiles, that's my new paddle tail, by the way, for my hyperelastics. I always like to use a bit of super glue. So that guy is more dedicated for bottom fishing or jigging. And when you touch it, it's balanced, so it stays pretty much horizontal like this. So that's why that one have more that action where you try to fish deeper, fish to the bottom, not always to the bottom, but fish vertically or cast far, let them dive, and then you can retrieve and jump and hop it on the bottom. Now, the other guy, and I'm going to remove it from the packaging, the other guy is the swimming bucktail. So the swimming bucktail have little but important differences. You find again some wings, but look, the attachment is not the same attachment point as this guy. So this one is more in the front, the head is more compact, it's definitely made for longer casts, and the wings are wider compared to this guy. So you can tell the wings are wider on the swimming one, and they have a more sharp angle. So thanks to that, even if you take the heaviest, which are 3.5 ounces, you can literally retrieve them, burn them on the top, and they skip like a fleeing bait fish. So those are really not just regular bucktail or jighead that just are a piece of lead and a hook. Those are entirely lures. And I mean, really, once you try them, you'll be surprised of the quality of fishing you can get with those.
And this is another one that I've had a chance to use a bit. And like when you're vertical jigging, it's so erratic. Every pump, it comes up at a different angle. I mean, really, really impressive. Like Patrick was saying, these things are not just a hunk of lead that you hang a tail on or tights and feathers on. The action that is instilled by the head of these bucktails is really impressive. Patrick, we also had, you answered this before, but I guess he had just checked in. Cool. And so we may as well answer the question again. And he was talking about the wide back. But what speed of a retrieval is optimum for this lure? Do I burn it or slow?
So I am sorry, because the answer I'm going to give you is not going to help you very much, or maybe a lot. Because in fact, you're very true. You're very true. Most of the bill minnow have typically one action or one speed that are optimum. And in fact, that have a lot to do with the reaction of their bill in the water. And that's why some of them need to be burned, especially those that have a thick bill. Typically at slow retrieve, they don't do well. So you need to burn them. On the opposite, those that have a thin bill have optimized action on a slow or medium speed. This one is apart, and it's apart purely because of its patented bill with the double anchorage. So I'm really not kidding you. I'm not trying to be the salesman who just want to say, hey, bye. Oh yeah, you need it for that. It works for that. Oh, for that, yeah. Well, that's really the case. Slow, medium, fast, burn it, jerk it. Truly, I have not found something where it was the best of its possibility, because it's good at all speed. So that's why I'm saying maybe I'm not helping you at all, or maybe I'm helping you a lot by saying that truly you can have that guy tied all the time.
Makes sense. Well, thank you, Patrick. And once again, I'll pop these up one more time as a reminder to use these discount codes at abandofanglers.com to receive 20% discount for the next 24 hours and 15% discount for the remainder of the week. And for those of you, once again, that share this broadcast and comment and all that, you have a chance to win a personally handpicked set of lures from Patrick Sebile geared towards your fishing style. He'll get on an email with you, figure out what you're doing, what you're interested in, and he will select $150 worth of his great lures. So make sure you use those discount codes, and of course, make sure you share. Patrick, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being on here every Tuesday. It's always fun and always very informative.
Thank you. Always pleased to join you, and thank you everybody for tuning in and be with Jim and I on this show.
Take care. Okay, so again, every Tuesday and Thursday we air old episodes of the Kayak Fishing Show. Every Tuesday is the kind of the newer stuff from Jackson Kayak, and on Thursdays is the older episodes where we were still with Ocean Kayak back in the day, because we have been on the air for 12 years. Today's episode was a really cool one, and it's a special one. It is shot here in San Diego. You can see a couple yellowtail over my shoulder. So those are some of our local fish. And this was shot during a tournament. Now, I've been putting on kayak fishing tournaments here for a long time. I no longer do it, but I did it for 12 years. We had a kayak fishing tournament that was the Steve Moyer Memorial Kayak Fishing Tournament, where we gave all the proceeds to the American Cancer Society. It kind of ran its course. I got busy. I started traveling for the show and everything, and I just didn't kind of have as much time to do it, and the tournament went away. We all missed it, but there was some talk about bringing it back. And we did bring it back, and actually Andy, our friend from OEX Kayaks, was the leader of bringing it back. And the reason he brought it back was to help out our friends organization. My good friend, Paul Lebowitz, you guys have seen him on the show. We have been friends for a really long time. Had the unfortunate incident where his son had passed away very, very suddenly. I mean, just super sad, and it still chokes me up to even think about it. And I know he's our guest on the show today, and I know it was a tough one for him to even be on here talking about it. So we'll try to keep things as light as possible. But we did this thing to help Paul's organization, because the cool thing was that with his son also was an organ donor, and just a lot of good came out of it, if that can be even possible. And well, I'm going to bring Paul up and let him, if he wants to even bring it up. Paul, how you doing, man? I really thank you for being on here. I know it's always tough for you to talk about your son, but this was a great event. And
I love talking about my son, James, Jim. It's an honor anytime when we have a chance to remember him. So thank you. Thank you for this.
Well, I know you like talking about him, but it's an emotional. It's been 5 years, 6 years.
It's been 6 years. Yeah, it still feels like it was just yesterday.
I can only imagine, and I can't imagine really what you're going through. It's hard for any of us to, unless you've been there. You can't. The feelings have got to be incredible. But let's talk about positive. Let's not get into a funk about it. Like I said, we had a great tournament that we shot for this, but it was all for a good cause.
Yes. Okay. I don't want to take too long at this, but basically James was a student at Cal Poly Pomona in the computer science program. And they treated him like family. He was accepted there. James was autistic, but you could hardly tell anymore. He lived in the dorms. He had tons of friends. And it meant so much to him that we thought the best way to remember James was to launch a scholarship. This is an endowed scholarship now worth about $85,000. So every year we're able to give out one or two scholarships to students in the computer science department at Cal Poly Pomona. And we didn't do this. Actually, this was a spontaneous outpouring of love and concern from the kayak fishing community. There were, let me see, this is hard to do.
There you go.
These stickers were sold by two competitors, Yak Gear and Yak Attack. Both sold these for, I don't know, it was $5 or $10, and there were raffles. There were kayaks from many manufacturers, including a beautiful one from Jackson Kayak. There was a Kraken, and all that got us up to $50,000 in 100 days. establishing the scholarship. So much gratitude.
That much. I didn't realize it was that much. That is awesome.
Tremendous gratitude to the kayak fishing community. Yeah.
So, I mean, there was that. Like I said, I mean, you're wearing the Donate Life hat. I mean, I know, and I know we mentioned it in the episode that, you know, he helped several people, including someone we actually was talking about the community, the fishing community.
Right.
Somebody everybody actually knew ended up getting, was it a kidney?
A kidney. Yeah, James helped 5 people. He literally saved their lives and added, well, you know, Donate Life. That's the whole point. James couldn't use his organs anymore, and he was a loving, giving kid. And it just made sense. And I encourage everyone out there to be an organ donor. You can't be too old. You can have medical conditions and still have viable organs. And
I know I'm signed up to be one. I don't think they'll take my liver, but
right. But yeah,
it's
definitely worth doing it, and it's a legacy. My son, I'm very proud of my son's legacy. He didn't live long, but not many of us can say they saved 5 lives.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know you guys had a very special bond. And I mean, just so briefly, his story, the fact that, I mean, he was on the spectrum, and where you had to fight tooth and nail to get him mainstreamed, and then got to the point where he was able to go away to college. I mean, I know that made you so proud. And when I first met James, when he was quite young, I mean, he was kind of introverted and quiet. And for him to take that step and to be able to go away to college, I mean, you must have been so proud.
It was amazing. But again, that's a thing where it's a team effort of a lot of people helped James over the years. So, but there's something special in the best way for these kids on the spectrum, and they just need a little extra patience for the most part. And so that was really fun, actually, teaching him all the social rules.
Yeah,
like you teach arithmetic. Yeah, and he was a great young man.
Yeah. I mean, I always enjoyed meeting him. I mean, I didn't meet him a lot, but I ran into you guys out on the water a few times, out on your little boat, and always a great kid and always great seeing you. So anyway, we're supposed to be watching an episode, so why don't we do that and lighten things up here? Like I said, this was the tournament. There are some great catches made. It was a good fishing day.
It was.
There was some big yellowtail, some really nice sized white sea bass caught, and also some tussles with some sharks and hammerheads, all that stuff. So I say, let's get this episode rolling.
This week on the Kayak Fishing Show, here in my hometown, San Diego, we are at La Jolla for the first annual James Lebowitz Memorial Kayak Fishing event. A great tournament, great turnout, great fish caught. Stick around, it's going to be a great show.
Word to the wise, if your mama ain't taught you, don't stand in front of a man and a fish he ain't caught yet. Honey, if the world calls me, tell him I'm fishing. I'm going fishing. Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Wouldn't you like to? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Wouldn't you like to go fishing? I'm going fishing. Woo!
This week we're in San Diego, my hometown. I've lived here my whole life. I've never found any place better that I wanted to live. The world famous San Diego Zoo, the Star of India at the Maritime Museum,
The best Mai Tai in the country.
giant sailors and nurses, great surf spots and endless beaches, and La Jolla kayak fishing. The reason I wanted to shoot in San Diego this year, I mean, it's my hometown. It makes it an easy place to shoot, but we're having a very special year. El Nino. I'm sure you've all heard about it. What that means is it's bringing warm water to our area. That warm water is bringing fish that we don't generally see here. I've never caught a yellowfin tuna off my kayak in our local waters. I've never caught a bluefin tuna off my kayak in our local waters until this year. And that's after 25 years of kayak fishing in this area. So we have the opportunity to do that this year, which we've never had before. So I invited the crew to come out and do a shoot in my backyard to see if we can get those exotics and get them on the show.
It's the day before the big tournament, and we have a chance to hit La Jolla with Paul before all the craziness of tomorrow. A relaxing day on the water is just what the doctor ordered.
Paul and I are both out here today in our Jackson Kayak Krakens. If you take a close look at Paul's, you'll see a couple small emblems on there. It's actually a custom-made boat by Jackson Kayak for Paul in memory of his son, and those logos are actually his son's signature. You know, the Kraken was really built for these waters out here in La Jolla. I mean, this is where I'm from. You know, it was designed for punching through the surf, putting in a lot of miles, chasing after big fish, and it's just so easy to rig up.
My buddy Andy said, you know what, I missed this event. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring back a big kayak fishing tournament in a way that will help our kayak fishing community. And so he's this year got together with our buddy Paul, whose son James passed away, and said he wanted to bring back the event and he wanted to do it in his name. So it's very special to us because Paul was such a good friend of mine, and he's such a key member of the kayak fishing community, not only here, but worldwide. He was the editor of Kayak Fish magazine.
This thing very well could be the biggest barracuda I have ever caught.
Giant barracuda.
Well, we tried on the bottom for a while, just kind of drifting.
For people that don't know, Pacific barracuda are nowhere near as big as Atlantic barracuda. Greater barracuda get huge, where ours are,
So,
30 inches is okay, a pretty decent one. And they're a lot skinnier.
Gonna work our way around the corner a little bit. Problem with going around the corner down here, it's where there tends to be a lot more sea lions.
Look at that.
Giant bonita.
We don't like sea lions. Trolling's kind of tough right now because there's a lot of free-floating loose kelp in the water. The El Nino is great as far as bringing good fish into the area, but warm water is not good for the kelp. So the kelp gets very weak. Pretty little bonita. Whoa, stop. He's a little smaller than I want to keep, though. So
Smooth landings and a few fish. That's pretty much a perfect afternoon. When we come back, we're on the water and watching fish after fish get landed during the James A. Lebowitz Memorial Tournament in La Jolla.
Yeah, we didn't exactly. We saved all the good fishing for the tournament guys. Because we got barracuda and bonita, and they got to go on and catch some good quality fish, as you guys will see here in a second.
La Jolla always delivers.
You know, we always had good
Here
tournament
for the
days.
First annual James Lebowitz Memorial Kayak Fishing Tournament. You know, we've got a long tradition of having tournaments here in San Diego. We did a benefit tournament here for over 10 years. it kind of went away a couple years ago, and my buddy Andy decided to revitalize it, bring the tournament back, and in honor of our good friend Paul's son who passed away this year, and all the money's going to a scholarship in his name. So this is really a more of a community event. It's not super hyper competitive, although everybody wants to compete. It's about the community, and that's what I'm really excited about, to bring this tournament back.
As the sun comes up over the hills, we can see the turnout. La Jolla fills with anglers here for the same reason: the memory of a boy lost too soon.
This morning, unlike some tournaments that have a shotgun start, this one's a very loose format, kind of launch whenever you want, basically after midnight. The key to La Jolla a lot of times is to get live bait, and many times that's just much easier to do if you launch in the dark. You either have like a Nocqua light to light up the water, or you can get up to Scripps Pier and get underneath the lights of that, so you can catch bait in the dark underneath the lights. Because once it gets bright out, once the sun comes out, the bait just spreads out. It's much more difficult. And if you want to get the big yellowtail, white sea bass, tuna, the other stuff we get out here, it really helps to have that live bait. So you got to watch everybody launch in the dark this morning. Luckily, it was very small surf, because launching in the dark when the surf is thumping is a whole different ballgame. So very calm seas this morning, no surf at all. So there won't be any mishaps on the launch this morning, I'm sure. Got a dog right in front of him. Oh, the dog's got it. We have a huge sea lion problem here in San Diego. Little yellow?
God, I hate those things.
Yeah, man, if you can get that back, you just get him to let go for a second. Yanni's one of my good buddies, man. He's one of the old school guys. Look at that.
Oh.
Dang on.
On a cobra fish and dive.
Oh, jeez. Double teaming you? Add some kelp to the...
Oh, no.
I saw marks on the bottom, nice structure, bait. I was actually halibut fishing. I'm rigged up for yellowtail and halibut. I'm down there for halibut. I get tapped like a halibut. All of a sudden, it starts running, and I'm on a yellow. Halfway through the fight, a seal comes and grabs it, is joined by another seal, and I'm fighting two seals for this yellow.
Okay. First off, Yanni, it's a sea lion. It's a sea lion. Why do people never know the difference? If you have not seen his website, what is it? A Fisherman's Belly?
Yeah.
So Yanni is an amazing cook, and he's got a website full of fish recipes called A Fisherman's Belly. So I just wanted to pause there and give him a little plug. Super cool guy, even if he doesn't know the difference between a seal and a sea lion. So, and he's old school. Fishing the old, you don't need all this high fancy stuff. Look at him on his old cobra fish and dive.
They tangled me up in kelp, and that was the end of the story. All I've got is my broken line. But I'm anxious to get back out in the same spot. I got my waypoint. I'm going there right now.
James seems to be watching over us today as the anglers begin to hook up fish after fish, each one bigger than the next.
Now, San Diego has a long history of having kayak fishing tournaments. I was putting them on for about 12 years, and we always did them as a benefit. I think that's why we always had such a great response, because it wasn't really always about the competition. It was a really good community thing. We gave back money to kayak anglers who were in need, and then anything else we would give to the American Cancer Society. You know, the tournament kind of ran its course. I became so busy that I just couldn't do it myself any longer. So we took a couple years off, and you know, with this unfortunate event with Paul's son, some of the guys said, you know, we should bring this tournament back. And so Andy from OEX stepped up and brought this tournament back. And it's such a great community thing to be able to give back to one of our own. and I hope that continues on for a very long time.
Oh, that's a tanker, dude.
Yeah, that's a nice yellowtail right there. And then it swapped over to a white sea bass. I thought that was a yellow. Because I got bad eyes.
Think if you just get each head up like that.
Oh, because he
Two more
has.
yellowtail landed, and the day has only.
Oh, because he has a
begun.
yellow and a white sea bass.
When we
Okay.
come back, we have more hookups and bigger fish as the JAL tournament in La Jolla continues.
I think we're pretty lucky in that fishery right there, Paul.
Yeah.
You know, unlike like in Northern California, a lot more exposure, a lot bigger water. With Point La Jolla, just to the south of La Jolla Shores, most of our swells are south swells. So even on the biggest days, most of the time the launch is really easy. You have the Scripps and La Jolla Canyons right there. So a lot of upwelling. We get the live squid, the live mackerel. I mean, it's a pretty incredible little spot. And it's not like it's a secret spot. It's just you go out there and cover it.
I think it's got to be the most heavily trafficked ocean kayak fishing spot anywhere, because that special beach just funnels them in. And it's like the place was just tailor-made for kayak fishing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we have the best fishing in Southern California. Well, heck, California, period.
Yeah,
Anywhere on the West Coast.
Earlier in the video, you saw us fishing for bait up underneath the pier, and that's Scripps Pier. We get there under the lights and jig up mackerel. Well, a half a mile in front of that pier is where I caught my very first marlin off my kayak. I mean, it is a special place. I mean, like I said, big thresher sharks. When the El Niños, the yellowfin, the bluefin, the dorado. I mean, it's a pretty cool place, and pretty lucky to have been pounding that water for a really long time.
Over hundreds of kayak anglers as they fill the warm waters of La Jolla, San Diego for the James A. Lebowitz Memorial Tournament.
Today I'm doing something that I don't normally do. I'm running the boat.
I missed that little tinny.
Today.
I think it was fun.
We've got
It's convenient, easy
James
to deal with.
Memorial kayak fishing tournament.
And I will say this, it's not always that glassy.
Real special event. Our son, Paul's son, passed away last year. And there's a scholarship in his name. So that's what this whole tournament is about. We've got about 100 guys out here. My buddy Andy put this tournament together. And the guys came out in force to help support it. And it's a beautiful morning here in La Jolla. Just breeze calm. You can't ask for a prettier morning. So hopefully we get to buzz around and get some shots of people catching some fish.
As dumb as it seems, it makes sense to me that I'd rather be dying. You can try to run away from your problems and escape, but the blood is gonna spray when they find you. Just in a phase, I was just in a phase. Just in a phase, I was just in a phase. Yeah.
That's awesome, Andy.
Definitely one of the prize catches out here. They get big, and they are probably one of the best tasting fish there is out here. That is a big, beautiful fish. That's got to go 40 at least. Nice fish.
All the animals come just to see what I've done. Throw it into the fire. I'm was trying to be what you wanted from me, but I guess I got tired. You can try to run away from your problems and escape.
Oh, look at that.
You came along just in time.
Yeah. Oh, Rick
Sleigh
Dahl
riding.
on the Cabo.
Oh.
Word comes to us on the radio of a big hammerhead moving in on the kayakers. Hammerheads are a normal sight around La Jolla and not a huge fear for the kayakers. But with big fish being landed, they become tempting targets. Jim decides to use some dead bait to lead the shark away from the bay.
Hammerheads, though not like you have to consider them a killer or anything, they have been very curious. But this year I've been wearing my shark shield on every trip. And when the hammerheads start getting a little bit curious.
I'm gonna pause it right there. Paul, do you remember that year? The amount of sharks that were around? It was unlike any other year I can remember.
Yeah, I remember. I had a couple encounters with them. One came and wanted to scratch its back on my yak.
Yeah, they were very curious. They'd come up and if you had a bait pump hanging over the side, they'd come up and grab it. That was probably the sharkiest year that I can ever remember. Particularly for hammerheads, because we see the makos, we'll get little makos usually, and then of course we catch the threshers. But as far as hammerheads, I'd never seen that many, and I don't know if that was associated with the El Nino year, if that was lined up. I don't really remember, but man, there was a lot of sharks.
Oh yeah, but I never felt threatened by those guys. Not
at all.
They were just curious.
Yeah, not at all. It was more a matter of not wanting to lose a fish, or which for us always seems like it's a bigger issue, is not like, just like with our live bait in sea lions, is not having them take your live bait.
Right. That's precious stuff.
Yeah. Spend 2 hours catching bait and then you lose it in 5 minutes from the dang sharks.
I can shoo them away with that. Or if I'm about to land a fish or something, I'll turn it on.
With the big hammer lured away, we get word that another kayaker has hooked and is currently fighting a different shark.
We've got my one of the old school guys, Chris Fierro, here on a nice fish, man. We've seen some beautiful fish hooked into this morning.
I bet he doesn't wear that hat anymore.
Oh, nice.
I know. He was as big a Charger fan as me. Yes, we also have 7 gills.
With the beautiful shark released unharmed and dozens of monster fish landed all over the bay, it's time for us to head into the weigh-in and see the results of the incredibly productive day for the anglers. Stay tuned as we find out who's the winner of the first annual JAL Kayak Fishing Tournament in La Jolla.
Jump over the commercial break.
Welcome back. This week, we're in Jim's hometown of San Diego for the first annual James A. Lebowitz Memorial Tournament. James was the son of a longtime friend of the Kayak Fishing Show, Paul Lebowitz, who died suddenly of an aneurysm during his first year of college.
Yeah, if you watch our show, you've met Paul. Paul has been on our show because, A, he is a good friend. B, he's the editor of Kayak Fish Magazine. If you're deeply invested in kayak fishing, you know who he is. What you may not know is that he was actually one of my early clients in my guide service. I'm the one who actually got him kayak fishing. And because he's such a great guy, we just stayed friends that whole time. And so we fished together and have been friends. But Paul's had a struggle with his son, James, through his life. James was severely autistic. And Paul was always there to support his son, to the point where James was able to go away to college on his own, live in the dorms, and start a life, which was, a lot of hard work for Paul and his son to get him to that point.
unfortunately, very suddenly, James passed away while he was away at college. A sudden brain aneurysm. And it was tough for everybody. It was tough for his friends and family. And Paul just really struggled with it. But one thing that he had to fall back on was that James was a very giving person, and in the end continued to be a giving person through organ donation, and was able to save 5 lives. I mean, literally saved 5 lives through his organ donations, and helped countless others through cornea donations and other things, just to help people skin grafts, everything. So his legacy continued. And I think one thing that makes this tournament really special is that shortly after James passed away, we actually spread his ashes in La Jolla. So every time we go fishing in La Jolla, we can go fishing with James. And that kind of makes this whole La Jolla fishing tournament in James' name even that more special.
As the fisher weighed in and the anglers feast on a huge meal provided by our friends at Heroes on the Water, we have a chance to pull Paul aside, talk to him about the tournament and the legacy it leaves.
Oh, it's an amazing gift from the kayak fishing community to our family to remember James. He's got a real connection with La Jolla. We played the rest at La Jolla. And La Jolla is a special place for all of us because we had to fight to keep our access a few years ago with the Marine Life Protection Act. And we could only do that because of community, because we had the Moore Memorial Tournament. It's really important. Even for a sad occasion, walking on the beach in the morning and seeing everybody getting ready to go, how excited they are, how pumped up they are, and then catch some quality fish, because La Jolla always delivers on tournament day.
Every tournament, it delivers fish.
Yes. And then everybody's up here having a good time.
Paul being a good friend of mine, and the fact that I've participated in a lot of the tournaments that you had put on in the past. Paul, even before this happened with the sun, was trying to get me to bring back the La Jolla tournament, and that it just seemed like a no-brainer, that it was a very cool opportunity to do something. Yeah, to just revive something that I had been a part of for a lot of years and missed doing, and being behind the scenes. I would like to be behind the scenes on organizing tournaments that have a worthwhile end product for a cause, and not to feed egos and give people a big check. Something that it's just a feel-good day all around, regardless of whether you caught a fish or not, just to be a part of it. I get so much back out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's what our tournaments have always been about here in San Diego. It's always been about the community coming together, and always totally. Just camaraderie and a good time.
And it seems like that's not as strong as it was for a while, and so trying to revive that, I think is a big deal.
That's very true.
Thousands of dollars raised for a scholarship in James's name. Kayak anglers prove once again that this community, at its core, is about heart. We may be brought together by a love of fishing, but we stay for the extended family, and when one of our family is in need, we gather together to help. That's what it's all about.
Oh, those pictures get me right in the heart, man.
Oh, I can only imagine. Like I said, unless people have been there, I can't even imagine what you've been through, Paul. Breaks my heart. But like I said, at least you've always got that positive, right? That something good came out of it with the organ donations and the scholarship you've been able to continue doing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I was fun there showing, our fishery that we love so much, and how our community used to be. I think Andy had a point there at the end. He goes, yeah, it's not quite that way anymore as much, but it was cool because our tournaments were always not about so much the bragging rights. There was a big tournament, the bass fishing ones.
all the kayaks have motors on them. It's like they're not even kayaks anymore, and and it's become big dollar, which is fine. It's fine to have that aspect. But my favorite thing, and I never competed in the tournaments, my favorite thing was always the hanging around afterwards and, eating food and drinking beer and swapping stories.
Yeah, well, this kayak fishing came up from the grassroots, and that takes us back to a different sort of day. Although I think you don't have to look too hard to find that around the country and the world.
Yeah. And there's still so many. I mean, we got a couple of comments. Jim Kelly, double white sea bass for him, which is in the picture over our head there. And Andy was, saying that was him during the video going on. And I mean, there's still so many great guys out there. And it's a shame the tournament isn't continuing. It's tough for all of us, the way we travel, and, Andy being up in Sunset Beach. So it's, trying to run something down here is a bit of a stretch, but maybe sometime we'll get these things going back together. Even if nothing else, there was an event that always went over in the East Coast called the Boondoggles, which were not a tournament. They were just kayak fishermen gatherings. And so there is none of that ego and competition or anything like that. So maybe someday it'll come back like that.
Yeah, maybe. Can I just say a word about Andy there?
Yes, of course.
He's just such a solid guy, and he goes back to the very early days. And that guy is just a stone cold fish killer. For him to spend the time away from his business in Sunset Beach, OEX, was just very generous, and we all love Andy.
Andy the Iceman. Back when we all had handles on the kayak fishing forums, and he was the Iceman. And it's not because he was stone cold; it's because he had an ice business. He literally delivered ice. So his handle was Iceman. He's actually an amazing musician. Many people don't know that, but the guy is an incredible musician. So you can look up Andy Iceman. I know he's got stuff all over, and quite the rocker. Patrick, I hope you enjoyed the episode.
I follow. And I remember, Paul, I remember the time when you contact together, and, my son is a little bit autistic also. I have twins, a boy and a girl. So I always really pay attention to your post about your son. So that's really touched my heart as well. Truly.
Oh, thank you.
Truly.
Thank you. They're special kids.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Again, super fun. It was fun to relive that. I mean, as far as the tournament goes, not the sad parts, but fun to relive the tournament and, have some of the guys who were actually in the tournament show up on the show here. Just want to remind people again of these discount codes for the people who, and remember, these things aren't just the live. A lot of people watch these later. So you still have the opportunity for 24 hours for that 20% discount, and it's down there, or the 15% discount over the rest of the week. And of course, if you share it, comment, all that stuff, you have the chance of the $150 gifts assortment handpicked by Patrick Sabile. And that'll go until the end of the week. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. And Patrick, I will see you next Tuesday.
Always a pleasure.
Paul, let's get out fishing, man.
Oh, we got to. Thanks for having me on today, Jim.
I appreciate it. And I always appreciate you sharing James's story. And even though, like I said, I know it's tough to talk about, but at least you're getting out the message on organ donation and everything else. So I do appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Well, again, take a look at that discount code. We'll be back here on Thursday with another episode of the Kayak Fishing Show live, and we'll be airing another older episode. I believe it was part 2 of a trip to Panama. So I hope we'll see you guys on Thursday. If you are going out on the water, please remember, always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. Take care.